Saludos and salutations, Broncos Country, and welcome to another exciting episode of Broncos Talk. Today, we are going to recap the amazing game against the Jets. I don't care what anybody tells you. It was an amazing game, all right? Never mind the weather. Never mind what Bo Nix did in the first half. We're going to concentrate on what happened at the end of the game. Everybody had the Broncos down for the count, but they came back and won. We're going to recap that. Also, the subject of today's show is PS2 making a case to be Defensive Player of the Year. We got all that and much more. So please stay tuned as here we go with Broncos Talk. And welcome back in, everybody. If you're just joining us, my name is Adan Diaz, and this is Broncos Talk here on the Orange and Blue Network. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at a 6'10" Mexican. I'm always down and happy and talk about any and all things football. But like I said, please make sure you like and subscribe on the Orange and Blue Network. Subscribe, share, comment, like. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to us after the fact on audio podcast, please, wherever it is you're listening to us, iHeart, Apple, Amazon. Make sure you 5-star review. Give us a great review on it. Let us know. Tag us, share with us so we know that you guys are following and that you're actually enjoying the content that we are providing here for you guys on the daily. And ladies and gentlemen, we are not just broadcasting on the Orange and Blue Network. We are also on the MHRT network. So make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment, and like and follow them because they have a lot of great shows on the network. And if you're just joining us for the very, very first time, we are doing a simulcast. So this show currently is being aired on the Orange and Blue Network and MHRT networks at the same time. It is such an amazing thing, guys. I'm always so hyped up, and I am always so excited to say that at the start of every single show. Also, please, today's show is brought to you by Dubby. So Dubby, it was formulated to give you focus and energy with no jitters or crash. Their formula contains vitamins, amino acids, and nootropics, including the patented neurofactor formula. They have no calories, no sugar, no maltodextrin, no fillers, no artificial colors. And as always, guys, make sure you go out and get your own. They have so many flavors. It is a great alternative instead of having to drink coffee or those really bad energy drinks that everybody always tells us we shouldn't be drinking, and sometimes we drink it in a little bit of excess. I'll raise my hand to that. But me, I love my Diet Coke. I've grown to love it, and I can't really go a single day almost without at least a can. So, but guys, make sure you go out and get your case of W. They have so many great flavors, as you see here on the screen. If you're listening to us after the fact on audio, please make sure you go to W and get yourselves a jar, a case. It is worth it. You will not regret it, and you can tell them that your friend 610 sent you. So, guys, we welcome you back in. We have such an amazing show for you guys today. My guest today, if you've been following me in the past, you have heard her, you have seen her on this network and on MHRT in the past. I am always so welcome and so glad, and I couldn't think of a better person to have with me to talk about the results of this past week. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome my good friend, Lindsay Bebo. Lindsay, how are you?
I am thriving. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Sorry about that. That intro takes a little bit longer than usual, but I swear I'm working on it.
No, it's great.
But Lindsay, we're gonna have a lot of people in the audience asking us questions. So as we talked a little bit backstage, we're gonna try to talk about any and all things but football. Football. with the time allotted. So I figured that we get started with the results of this past week, the game against the Jets. Now, I've been hearing for the last 3 days, Lindsay, from Jets fans to even some Broncos fans that say that this was an ugly win. And for me, an ugly win, this team has had ugly wins, and they've also had pretty losses. So me, I prefer the other, which is an ugly win. Like, granted, it's in MetLife. The Broncos playing in MetLife, regardless of what year it is, since 2013, has always just been it's brought nightmares, So the energy was kind of low going in. The weather didn't help any. It was supposed to be like a really bad game all around. And to me, like, the first half was, but the second half, the boys got it together. The defense got their act together. They went out there and they put on a hurting on Aaron Rodgers. I don't think Aaron Rodgers has probably been hit that much in a long time, because you could see it in his face. The frustration was there. They were making it a bad day in the office for him. And even if Lutz hits that field goal, I'm still convinced that there's no way Aaron Rodgers marches down that field and scores a touchdown. What do you think, Lindsay?
No, I mean, I just it cracks me up how many excuses people are willing to make for Aaron Rodgers. Like, Bo Nix played in the same exact conditions. Aaron Rodgers, I don't know how much he's paid, but I can assure you it's a lot more than Bo Nix is currently paid. And he couldn't even produce one touchdown. So this idea of like, it was Robert Saleh's fault, they missed the kick. I don't know, maybe give your kicker better field position than 50 yards. Aaron Rodgers didn't look good. You're right. I don't know when the last time he got sacked 5 times was, but that's how many times the Broncos sacked him. I'm just so over the excuses. Like, yes, was it an exciting? No, I take that back. Was there a lot of plays? Nope, that's not even the right thing. Was there a lot of offense in this game? No. But I wouldn't call it an ugly win. It's not like the Broncos scored because it was 0-0 the entire game. Nobody was catching balls, and the Broncos just happened to make a last-second field goal. Like, I would not describe how the Broncos defense played as ugly. So people just make excuses for Aaron Rodgers. It's annoying, but I guess it just is what it is.
Yeah. And before I continue, I did forget one big important part, and I'm really sorry. Unfortunately, we are not going to be joined by Ty, Fly the Fantasy Guy, again. He is taking some time off. Ty, we love you. We hope you're recuperating. If you guys follow us on the network, which hopefully you guys do, you guys saw that he was at the Broncos game with Jay Weaver. So they had a fantastic time. I'm pretty sure when Ty comes back, he'll tell us all about his great time he had with Jay and being at I was going to say the Mets at MetLife with watching the Broncos win. But to your point, Lindsay, I totally agree. And the thing that really kills me is that going into this game, there's that viral picture going around Broncos country where everybody except Adam Rank picked the Broncos to win. Everybody was Jets. Aaron Rodgers was going to go in
the Jets to win.
I'm sorry. Yeah, everybody picked the Jets except Adam Rank. Let me correct myself. Thank you. And, after we saw what the Jets did to the Patriots the week before in week 3 on Thursday Night Football, like, I can see where people were getting that idea, that Aaron Rodgers was back. But the Patriots defense and the Broncos defense are not the same, obviously. They went out there and they showed that even in lousy weather, Zach Allen was still a threat. Patrick Surtain II, who we're going to talk about a little bit later on the show, was still a threat. Vance Joseph's defense was still a threat. And this notion that, it's an ugly win, when you're the road team, you'll take ugly wins 1,000% of the day because you're playing on the road. There's a whole lot of pressure. You're playing against, a stadium full of the opposing fans. So you got to deal with crowd noise. You got to deal with momentum changes. Like, there's a lot that goes into it, and as we get further into the season, we're going to deal with snow. We're going to deal with inclement weather in terms of like cloudiness and fog and possibly even more rain. And that's just what football is, as long as, it's nothing dangerous like lightning, which they always stop it for. But Bo Nix, I think, is starting to pick up speed. he played a really clean game in terms of not getting sacked, and the Jets defense was pretty formidable. They're second in sacks, if I'm not mistaken, Lindsay. So he was supposed to have another bad day at the office, just like he did against the Seahawks and the Steelers. To me, even without our right tackle, Lindsay, it was really impressive seeing Bo Nix kind of playing in the pocket. And yes, he did have bad throws, but like, again, I can really, I want to put that in. He's a rookie and he's working it out type of thing. But you also have to include the weather. For Aaron Rodgers, the weather did play a part, but he was still able. He hit more of his targets more than Bo Nix did.
He also got away with a catch to Garrett Wilson that he clearly stepped out on. He also got away with the fact that it should have been a sack fumble at the end of the game, the fourth quarter, that also got called back. So, yes, did he have more yards? Great. But it cracked me up before this game because people were so confident about the Jets. I mean, they were 8-point favorites to win. I think when I was seeing different visual rankings by, I don't know if it was NBC or PFF, they were ranked like number 11. I'm sorry. They look like shit. Wait, sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
They look like shit against the 49ers in week 1. And then they beat the Titans and the Patriots. And yet we're going to act like that. That's impressive. That's what's going to, prove that they're this 8-point favorite team. Aaron Rodgers gets so much credit for doing very little work, and he gets so many excuses when he doesn't produce. Obviously, would I want to see more from Bo Nix than 60 yards? Yes. But what I will say is I think Bo Nix made less mistakes than Aaron Rodgers did, which is when the game comes down to 1 point, that's the difference.
Mm-hmm. And I totally agree. The overthrows, I know it's something that we hadn't seen within Bo Nix the last 3 weeks, but at least it wasn't towards the other team. In my opinion, he never put, except for maybe like once, maybe twice, he didn't really put the football in danger where he was in danger of being intercepted. Of course, the injury to Bidet really sucks. Really glad to hear he's okay. He's probably more than likely going to unfortunately end up in the IR, which is why the Broncos went out and signed the running back from Miami. Yeah, I forgot who his name is, but so he's probably going to end up taking Bidet's spot in I don't know, maybe this weekend, probably the next one. I don't know what the delay is in terms of designating him a spot. I think they're trying to see if maybe they can avoid IR, but if with the signing the Broncos made, it's kind of looking like it's not going to head that way. But yeah, I mean, this win felt special, and I want to apologize because there's a lady that was watching me just kick and scream and dance and act like an idiot at the lobby of my job when I saw Greg Zuerlein miss that field goal. But I'm sorry. I was really happy. I was ecstatic. My team had just beat the Jets, and so I apologize. But
no need to apologize. She should know.
I mean, she was laughing at me, I'm pretty sure, not with me, but she was pretty chill about it. But it's still like it felt great. It was a much needed win for Over the Road because for the last 2 games, Lindsay, I read your article that you wrote about the Bucs, which, by the way, guys, please make sure you go follow on Mile High Sports. Lindsay is one of the best writers in Broncos country. So, and I can't wait. Every time you upload it, I swear I click on it so fast because I'm always eager to hear what you have to say about the subject at hand. But the Broncos going into the Bucs game and just completely shutting down Baker Mayfield, and then seeing what Baker Mayfield did to the Eagles this past week, where they look like another day at the offense, just goes to show you how impressive this defense is. And they got an upcoming matchup with the Raiders, who we're also going to talk about a little bit later, Lindsay, and it's not looking good for Vegas. But the thing that really makes me feel great about this defense is that the defense can hold its own while Bo Nix learns. Okay. And that's very crucial because as he learns, mistakes are going to be made. And if mistakes aren't made, then 3 and outs are going to be made. And 3 and outs are not good. Okay. Especially when they're consistent, because the best way to beat any great defense, even a defense like Denver's, is to constantly have them put out on the field. However, if Bo Nix can keep doing what he's doing, whether he's marching, the drives are marching, and he's at least putting up points, even if they have to settle for 3, then that's a work in progress. And to me, these last 2 games really turned off the heat under Sean Payton's desk, because it was kind of starting to heat up after that Steelers game 2 weeks ago, and now it's kind of like vaunted. And now Vance Joseph seems to be carrying Sean Payton on his back. That's only going to be good until, as much as we hate to say it, the next loss comes. I do hope it's not anytime soon, because so far we're on a 2-game winning streak, and if we can beat our record of 5 games from last year, we're already on a good track.
Yeah, what were we, 1-4 after 5 games last year?
I think we have 5, and that Houston would have been 6, but that's when they lost it to CJ Stroud. So, but I mean, any way you look at it, Bo Nix getting his first passing touchdown and not rushing was also a great moment in Broncos country. And shout out to Cortland Sutton, who even though I know he doesn't watch this podcast, really great of him to give Bo Nix the football so he can commemorate his first passing touchdown as a Bronco. So I guess now the question I have for you, Lindsay, is in the rookie race between Bo Nix. We've seen what Jaden Daniels is doing. He's really lighting up his time with the Commanders, and then we see what Caleb Williams is doing. Out of those 3, how do you put them in rank in terms of 1, 2, 3?
Sorry, my computer froze for a second. So it was Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, and who?
And Caleb Williams.
Oh, so I would say Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, and then oh my God, why am I spacing? Caleb Williams. However, hot take. I think Marvin Harrison is right there, and Malik Neighbors. I would argue that I need to sit down and actually look at the numbers. But I actually think Malik Neighbors probably deserves it more than Jaden Daniels. I understand it's a quarterback league, and that's not typically how this works, but that guy is literally carrying the Giants on his back. The Giants don't have an offense. I don't think they get any yards without Malik Neighbors. But Correct. If we're talking quarterbacks, I would go Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, and then Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I mean, and I know a lot of people in Broncos country are going to be mad, but I still think that Bo Nix is, out of those 3, I put Caleb in second, just for the simple fact that he has, if we're going by numbers, and that's just me taking my orange and blue colored glasses off, by numbers, Caleb is ahead of Bo Nix.
Yeah, and he's definitely made way more, if you were to just look at the body of work, he's definitely made more impressive throws than anything Bo Nix has made, for sure. And maybe I'm being a little bit biased, but yeah, I can do that. But I don't know. I think Bo Nix has made less mistakes as of late. Obviously there was that. Was it against the Steelers when he threw that pick in the end zone that caused me to literally walk out of the restaurant I was watching it in? I guess maybe if we're looking at the trajectory, and if you're listening to this, you can't see my hands. I think if Caleb Williams started here and Bo Nix started here, he's catching up. I think Bo Nix has made a lot more progress since week 1 than Caleb Williams has. And if that continues, I give it to Bo.
Yeah. Now the one positive that Bo Nix has over Caleb Williams is that the Broncos offensive line is much better than the Bears offensive line. If you may have not remembered from Sunday Night Football, the Houston Texans completely demolished Caleb Williams and that offensive line in that game. Yeah. So he's been able to hold his own these last 2 games. They just got a win here in Chicago against the Rams. This week they're facing the Panthers. And if it was Young playing, I'd probably say it's another W for Chicago. But with Andy Dalton coming in, it's a possible revenge game for him, trying to stick it back to his old team in Chicago. So it's going to be a great game. But in terms of catching up, I totally agree. I think that Bo Nix's tutelage under Sean Payton is starting to show. And I think us as Broncos fans, we got so hypnotized with the magic we saw in preseason, we thought that it was going to automatically carry over, you know. And then as soon as week 1 and week 2 hit, it's like, oh crap, you know, it's not twos and threes, it's actually ones. It's actually Mike Tomlin. It's actually Mike McDonald. It's actually Seattle. Like all these realities start hitting in, you know. And I'm pretty sure it caught Bo Nix off guard, and maybe even Caleb to an extent in terms of, hey, this isn't college. This is the NFL. It's real here. Mistakes, you make mistakes, you're going to get punished for them, you know. And there's only so much of that people in Broncos country can stand, because the rookie year is only exactly what it is, a rookie year. So we have to make, or Sean Payton, let me clarify myself. Sean Payton has to make sure he gets all that stuff, all those kinks and stuff worked out for year 2, because there's no way that Bo Nix can keep looking this way next year and not expect any scrutiny from anybody. And then Shai Vargas here jumping in. Shai, thank you so much for watching, jumping in. He has a question for us, Lindsay. He says, do you think we could beat the Raiders this Sunday?
Hold on. Let me pull something up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. While Lindsay does that, let me just go and answer the question for you, Shai. Doesn't matter.
Well, here it is. This will answer it.
Oh, go ahead.
So I have the Raiders injury report.
Ooh.
Max Crosby did not practice. Let's see who else on here. Devontae Adams did not practice. Zamir White limited. Like, I mean, this is their injury report. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 did not practice. You take out Devontae Adams and Max Crosby, who are the Raiders? Like,
exactly. Yeah, well,
I've never been more confident that
Devontae's already been ruled out for sure. He is not going to.
Oh, he has.
Yeah, he's already ruled out. He is not going to play this Sunday. This whole trade talks with him, I'm pretty sure he's going to sit out, and the Raiders behind the scenes are going to more than likely find him. Max Crosby is still dealing with an ankle injury, if I'm not mistaken, so he's still questionable. He might be a game time decision, but honestly, he's like their only chance at being in terms of giving the Raiders a shot in terms of winning this game. Gardner Minshew, the last time, if I'm not mistaken, the Broncos played him was when he was a rookie with Jacksonville a couple of years ago. And what was supposed to be a good day at the office for the Broncos defense was like the complete opposite. I still remember that play where he was literally dancing in the pocket, and then he was able to throw for a touchdown. And I think the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Broncos that day, if I'm not mistaken. So they have a bone to pick with Gardner Minshew. He's coming back, not as a Jaguar, as the quote-unquote starter for the Raiders. To me, at this point, Shai, it doesn't matter if it's him, if it's Aiden O'Connell. The Broncos have a bone to pick with the Raiders. The Raiders have gotten a bit of a win streak against Denver. I think they haven't beaten them since Russell Wilson.
I think it's 8 in a row, actually. It's before
8 in a row.
Wilson.
It's before Russell
like
Wilson. Okay, yeah. So I stand corrected. So the streak is definitely looking to get broken this Sunday. And if the Raiders keep playing like this, and it looks like they're probably going to be riding the basement for the rest of the season, I think that they're going to sweep them. And now the thing that really kills me, Lindsay, is
just confirmed. It is in fact 8 games.
Thank you. It is 8 games. The thing that kills me, Lindsay, is the fact that we're going to play the Raiders, and the Raiders are not at 100%. And you guys have heard me. You guys have heard me say, I know this is a next man league, but I've always said that the one way I would rather beat a team is beat them at their best instead of beating them with their preseason squad in a way. So I'm not saying I'm not going to enjoy the win. I definitely will. But the good thing about that is that the Broncos will play the Raiders later on again in the season. But anybody outside our AFC West division, I mean, the Broncos only have 3 or 4 injured players, Lindsay. The Chiefs are beat the hell up. The Chargers are beat the hell up as well.
I watched the Chargers-Chiefs game on Sunday, and I was like, these are the teams I'm supposed to be afraid of. Like, it was awful. Yeah. Neither team looked good. Travis Kelce looks old and slow. I'm like, these are the teams that I'm supposed to be terrified of. And in no way was I afraid of either one of them.
Yeah. You know what I will say about Travis Kelce when we're on the subject? Like, it made me understand why Gronk left when he did, because a lot of people wanted to see Gronk. And even though Gronk looks like he can play like another 5-10 years, Travis out there looks like he's really forcing himself.
Yeah.
Like, after Rashid Rice went down, like I wouldn't be surprised if Kelsey was just like, you know what, this team isn't going anywhere. Like I'm retiring early before the end of the season type of
my
thing.
dream.
But unfortunately, that's not going to happen. He's going to go out there and he's just going to try to ride the Mahomes coattails as long as he can. But back to your point, the AFC West is probably the other three teams, not the Broncos, are probably the most beat up they've been in a long time. Because Mahomes, without his weapons, he is just like it's like a shining knight in armor without any armor. He is so vulnerable. The Chargers, I don't know why, if Justin Herbert's not 100%, I don't know why John Harbaugh is putting him out there. I think he's doing more harm than good. I know that the Chargers want to win games, but if your team isn't at 100%, your offensive line is not at 100%. I don't think Alt or Slater played this week, and we saw what that offensive line looks without him. It's just terrible. There's no run game. So they caught a break. They have a bye week this week, so they have a chance to heal up and get healthy. So they got that going for them. But sometimes you need more than a week, And the one important thing before I turn it over to you, Lindsay, is the one thing about football is that if you're not playing, what was that? I forgot what that saying was. Like, if you're as healthy at the end as when you started, then you're not playing good football, if that makes any sense. Because the really good teams are usually beat up.
Yeah, I don't care if the Raiders have two players on the field. Like, I'll take the win. I don't care. It's not my fault that you guys aren't at your strongest 5 weeks into the season. When I look at the scoreboard or when I look at the record, it doesn't say 2-2 asterisk. The weather was bad, so Aaron Rodgers didn't play well. No, I will take my wins. Max Crosby, stay at home. I don't care. Devontae Adams, stay at home. I don't care. Not my problem. Even if they played, I think we'd still do just fine. I actually think maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but the point of this podcast was about PS2 making a case for Defensive Player of the Year. Correct. It does bum me out that we won't get Pat Surtain on Devontae Adams just because I know he would do exactly what he did to DK, exactly what he did to who did he cover in week 2? Was it Pickens?
Pickens, correct.
Yeah. Week 3, it was Mike Evans, and then now week 4, it was Garrett Wilson. Mm-hmm. That would be great to add Devontae Adams to that list. So unfortunately, we won't get to see that. But other than that, like I said, I will take my wins. I don't care how I get them.
Yeah, I was really excited for that matchup too because as much as I love PS2, Adams was probably the only one that can really go toe to toe, and like there'll be a drive where it's all Pat Surtain, and then there'll be a drive where it's mostly Adams. So those two guys were good at just trading blows. It was almost like a heavyweight fight. The only exception to that last year is probably the New England game, which is you guys have heard me say it a million times. That was PS2's worst game of the season. Plays, and I'm pretty sure he watched that tape, and I'm sure. Hopefully he used that as fuel during the offseason and training camp and all that stuff. But the tape that PS2 has been able to put on since then and currently has just been anything short of amazing. And I wish that Madden would make, if it doesn't happen this year for next year's Madden, he definitely has my vote of being in the 99 club because the man is just fantastic. Taking every team's biggest weapon away from him. Now, he does have a little bit of a hand situation where, he's getting a little bit handsy and he has drawn flags. But thankfully, it hasn't been anything that's, serious like a 15-yard penalty. It's more like, 5 yards holding. So, and it happens. When you go against the best wide receivers, they're going to tussle. So, but I mean, the man is just anything short of amazing. I really can't think, even Sauce Gardner, this past week, Lindsay, he just didn't look like the Sauce Gardner of old. And if anything, the Jets were just kind of looking at each other. If you saw Aaron Rodgers' press conference after the game, he was blaming Saleh. Saleh was
he's blaming everyone but himself, per usual.
Pretty much. And it was Saleh blaming Rodgers, Rodgers blaming Saleh. I can only imagine what the interview inside the Jets locker room was like. with the other players that I didn't see. But they're going to have their hands full this week in London against the Vikings. But going back to PS2, guys, Lindsay, let me ask you this. If you could go back and you could still, would you change the trade between him and the Broncos possibly getting Justin Fields, who the Broncos were heavily favored in getting in that year's draft?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, it would have been, I mean, I don't think it would have been any different. Could you imagine Nathaniel Hackett with Justin Fields? Oh my God, that would have been awful. And you know, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson have obviously some differences, but they're the same type of quarterback. Sean Payton didn't like working with Russell Wilson. What makes you think he would like working with Justin Fields? Obviously, I think part of that was I think Sean Payton just hates Russell Wilson's personality, which maybe he doesn't hate Justin Fields. But if you just look at the trajectory of the Broncos, I don't see a world in which Justin Fields would have A, made them better, or B, it would have worked out differently. You know, whereas at least Pat Surtain, I think Pat Surtain has won us some games single-handedly. I think he has, even though, you know, you look at on paper and it's a team that hasn't been to the playoffs and hasn't even had a winning record since he's been on the team, but he has made an impact that I don't think Justin Fields would have made.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. My only fear going in, and I remember that draft clearly because my friend, he's a huge Justin Fields fan, and he was so happy when the Bears jumped up to get him. And, you know, I even got a couple of comments and texts saying, oh, you know, Denver messed up. They had Justin Fields, could have fell right in their lap or whatever, and then they went PS. Now, you guys know me. I don't watch college football like I should, but I do watch highlights and stuff, and I pay a little bit closer attention as we get closer to the draft, you know, especially if it's players that the Broncos have their supposed eye on, you know. But the only worry I had about them picking Surtain the second is that I was really hoping that it wasn't going to turn out like Bradley Chubb, because in that year's draft, they could have had Denzel Ward, who was slated to be the best cornerback of that draft, and then they went with Bradley Chubb. And I'm not saying anything picking Bradley Chubb was wrong, but he got hurt way too much for our liking. It really hurt his potential on what him and Von Miller could have been for those 2 seasons they were together. 2.5 because Von got traded midway through 2018, 19, whatever it was. Or 2022, sorry. But it just, like, that was my only concern. But you have to put faith in your the management office, and George Payton really went out there and he got the best available. He didn't have to trade up to get Pat Surtain the second. He literally was just right there. So I'm really happy with the trade, with the pick.
Well, I would argue that Pat Surtain has saved not Sean Payton, George Payton's career, right? Like, I feel like him at least showing his draft capabilities, and like at least he's put together a really good defense. Imagine if the Russell Wilson trade had happened. The Broncos haven't made the playoffs or had a winning record since he joined staff, and the defense is shit too. Like, literally, the defense and the drafts, or I'm sorry, the signings and the draft picks he's made on that side of the ball is literally the only reason he is still the GM.
Right. Shai Vargas coming in here asking us another question here, Lindsay. He says, do you think the Broncos offensive line is a lot better
than last year, than the Raiders?
I'm gonna take a guess and say maybe he means in general, probably this year.
Oh yeah. I mean, PFF, granted, PFF also keeps giving Zach Allen horrible scores, so I always take them with a grain of salt. But the 3 highest offensive players graded for the Jets game were, I think it was Ben Powers. Garrett Bowles was number 1, I think, then Quinn Miners, and I think Ben Powers after. Look what they were able to do for Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin, who have looked like shit through the first 3 weeks. I think combined for the first 3 weeks, they both averaged 2.2 yards per carry. This last week, they averaged something like 4.9 and 5.1. So they did their job. Look at Breece Hall. I mean, he had 4 total yards. Even I think his name's Braden Hall, didn't really do anything either. So they look great out there. I love when Garrett Bowles is playing well and is happy. I'm happy. So I love to see it.
I, for one, agree with you, Lindsay. I thought that our biggest weakness going into this game was going to be the right side, with McGlinchey gone. But he held up pretty well. He kept Bo Nix clean from most of the game in terms of not getting any sacks. So the only bad thing I would say that about that is that when you put that type of tape out there against a line like the Jets, that kind of makes you look at McGlinchey and kind of makes it look like, yeah, the Broncos definitely overpaid for McGlinchey's services at right tackle. But that's what you do in the free agency, Lindsay. And I tell this to people all the time. You kind of have to take that risk with all these players if you want them to play for your team and hope that they don't turn out to be overpaid as such. And unfortunately, the Broncos, the biggest Achilles heel for as long as I can remember, has always been right tackle, except for the 2015 season, where Peyton Manning literally built his offensive line damn near from scratch, like picking fruit out of a garden. So aside from that, I know that they've had a lot of swing and misses on right tackles. But for me, I was really impressed. Now, the run game isn't exactly like, best in the world, but I will say that second half, Javonte Williams was giving us flashes of like the Javonte of old, which was really good to see.
Love it.
I really didn't. Unfortunately, it had to kind of come with the injury that came to Bidet, because if Bidet doesn't get injured in that play, we probably may have not seen what we saw from Javonte. But I think that was like a rejuvenation for him. I'm really glad that happened for him, because now that gives people more hope into what this offensive line can do when they really sink in and Bo Nix starts to continue to take control of this group, Lindsay. And that's just basically do what he's being paid to do and not take sacks, not throw interceptions, and just put points on the board. And I think that with this Raiders game, even though the Raiders are beat up, as we've said on this show, Lindsay, this is this is the one game where Bo Nix has to show that he can be the guy in Denver, because the schedule is going to get tougher as we go along, and we play teams that are not as beat up and as the Raiders currently are. So this has got to be the game. Like, we cannot have another game like the Jets, because it's not going to be raining in Denver. It's not going to be snowing. I think it's going to be good, perfect weather, maybe even. So you won't be able to have that excuse this time going around. But to answer Shai Vargas' question, because I know I'm kind of beating around the bush, I think the offensive line is good. I'm really hoping it turns out to be great once McGlinchey comes back, and hopefully he finds something to reinvigorate him and be the right tackle that the Broncos paid for.
I agree.
And Johnny here jumping in saying, "What's up, Lindsay? It's been forever."
I know.
But yeah, going back to the topic of today's show, folks, which is the PS2 making a case for Defensive Player of the Year. In terms of cornerback, I really can't see anybody even coming close to doing what PS2 has done. I know there are a couple of names out there, like we mentioned Sauce Gardner earlier. I don't think he's really faced anybody of the likes of PS2. He's gonna have his hands full this weekend with Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, and Jalen. Is it Jalen?
Jalen
I
Wright?
forgot.
Is that his name?
Nay, I don't know if it's Nay or the third wide receiver from the Vikings. I'm sorry, I forgot his name. But that whole secondary is going to have their hands full with them. So going forward to this Raiders game, Lindsay, or actually before we do that, if you had to give a game ball to somebody on the Broncos for this past game against the Jets, who would it be?
I don't know, because the thing is like nobody had like I said, there were 5 sacks, right? Like everybody got a moment to shine. Like there wasn't anybody where I went, holy mackerel, you dominated the whole game. I'm gonna give it to Justin Stranad, because I feel like him getting a sack on the very first play of the game set the mood, and like they just maintained it the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm. For me, I'm probably gonna have to say, like, I wish I could give one to the entire defense, but I'm gonna have to say Vance Joseph.
Oh yeah, I can make
I know technically he wasn't out on the field, but like for me, like the best part of that second half was on that 4th and 10 where Aaron Rodgers just completely turns his back and he just gets blindsided, and it's anything short of a miracle he didn't fumble the ball. Uh, but just I mean the calls that Vance Joseph did and holding the Jets on at the red zone was just, I mean, it's really hard to do, especially when you have a team like the Jets have on paper and expect them to settle for, I think they only had to settle for a field goal if I'm not mistaken. So kudos to them. They did a fantastic job. And Johnny here coming in for another question for you, Lindsay. He says, what's your hot take for this game, for this season?
My hot take for the game is I don't think it's going to be close. I think the Broncos are 3-point favorites. I think it's going to be something like 24-10 or maybe 24-13. Like I don't think this is going to be a nail biter at all. I think this is going to be something like the Bucs game. I think the Raiders are terrible, and with no Max Crosby and no Devontae Adams, they have the Brock Bowers, right? That's his name. Like They literally have him. I'm not scared of Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew. So yeah, no, I guess. And for the season, I don't know. My hot take. I mean, I said that they were going to obviously win more than 5.5 games. I think that was the over under, and that's clear. Like I think we're already almost halfway there. So it's not really a hot take because a lot of people had it. I don't know what my hot take is for the game or for the season. What's your hot take? You say something, and then for the season, I'll think of something.
My hot take would probably be that the Broncos sweep the Chiefs.
Oh yeah, okay, I won't say that.
Yeah, that's my hot take.
That is a hot take.
Because I mean, we talked about it earlier, Lindsay, where we said the AFC West is beat up, and the Chargers continuing to charger. That's just them. They've been known to play injured and sometimes playing with players that we've never even heard of that were in the league. The Raiders, it's been a long time since they've been this beat up. So if I'm going to dream big, I'm definitely going to dream big. And right now, Patrick Mahomes is his most vulnerable when he doesn't have his consistent weapons. So the Chiefs are definitely going to have to go out and trade, make a deal with the devil or do something. I don't think that they're going to be able to get a guy like Devontae Adams just for the simple fact that not just for the second round pick, which I'm pretty sure they have, but just in fact where they have to eat up some compensation. So the Raiders are looking to offload a bunch of his money off of their books. And I just don't think the Chiefs have that type of cap space.
Okay, my hot take is I'm going to go the opposite way. I think they're going to, and it's not like as hot or scandalous as yours. I'm going to say they're going to sweep both the Raiders and the Chargers.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see that, and I really do hope it happens. And Clayton Heron says, I've been saying since day one, no fly zone part deux. I think is how you say it. Part two. I mean, I can definitely see flashes of the no-fly zone here, Clayton. I will say, however, when the Broncos had the no-fly zone, it wasn't just the secondary that was formidable. It was like the front. Von Miller, Malik Jackson. Was it Shaq? No, it wasn't Shaq Barrett. DeMarcus. What was his last name? I can't think of his last name.
DeMarcus Ware?
Yeah, DeMarcus Ware. Thank you. Like it was a whole group of guys, and I say flashes because this secondary is definitely up there with what Aqib Talib. Well, Aqib Talib in terms of what PS2 is putting out there. Riley Moss is definitely playing his heart out. I know he still feels bad over that. Well, it wasn't even his fault. It was just like what was it, Bearing, who jumped the gun against the Steelers and gave them the 5 yards, and then Riley Moss couldn't stop the wide receiver throw. So, but this defensive front is definitely putting no fly zone vibes out there, and I am loving it. Johnny comes in and he says, this defensive front is best in the NFL right now, though. We are currently top 3 in all 3 phases of defense. And Johnny's right here, Lindsay. And they're doing this without what was it, Browning, right? Because Browning is hurt. So it's just
Jonathan
Jonathan
Singleton this week.
Yeah. And no Singleton, which was a really big worry for us in Broncos country, because we didn't know what the heck was going to happen without Alex Singleton. You know, he was a really big part of this linebacker core. So Sternad, as you mentioned, has done a really good job. Now, my other question to you, Lindsay, is if you were Sean Payton and George Payton said, who would you want to trade for to bolster either the offense or the defense?
I don't think we need to touch the defense. I mean, I definitely want it's complicated because it's not just like pick whoever you want. We have capital to spend and picks galore, right? Like, I mean, you know who I'd want? Tim Patrick. How about we don't do that again? Like, that was stupid. That's exactly what we need. Like a veteran who doesn't drop the ball, who makes plays at crucial times like he did on Monday. That's exactly what that's who I'd want. And guess what? It would have cost nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Broncos took a huge gamble.
That was stupid.
Yeah, and so far it hasn't paid off because don't get me wrong, and Johnny, I'm sorry if I butcher this last name again, but Vel has not really been the guy that I know he's hurt, but he's been inactive the last 2 weeks, and when he was active, he didn't like all the flashes and stuff that we saw from training camp and the preseason. Unfortunately, haven't been there. So hopefully
he hasn't been on the field. He didn't play last week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's been inactive. So I'm really hoping it comes out because the Broncos got rid of Tim Patrick to put him in, and I forget the name of somebody, or I would say Josh Reynolds, but they traded for him. But so far, Josh Reynolds hasn't been anywhere of how he looked like when he was in Detroit. Even my brother told me when, you know, because he's a big Lions fan. He told me, like, you know, Josh Reynolds last year makes that catch with his eyes closed, and he had a really bad drop pass this past week. So unfortunately, they haven't really come around and show. And we just saw Tim Patrick 2 nights ago just almost score a touchdown with Jared Goff and the Lions against the Seahawks. So I really, for me, you're right. The defense is pretty much solid. If they went out and got another inside linebacker to kind of help reinforce that, not that I don't have any confidence in Sternad or whatever, I'd be fine with it. But I think offensively, you need a tight end.
Yeah.
Oh, so the name, I'm not high on Dulcich. I'm probably wouldn't be surprised if he's not even on this team next year.
No, zero chance. Zero. He's on the team.
The name that's been getting thrown around, Lindsay, is Kyle Pitts from Atlanta. That the Broncos should definitely target him in terms of trying to get him to come to Denver.
Why not?
The other one that I heard was Mark Andrews. I really don't see why. I know Mark Andrews he's playing more of a blocker type of role in Baltimore. He doesn't look anything like the Mark Andrews of old. Him and Isaiah Likely are pretty much on par, if I'm being honest with you. Isaiah Likely had a breakout game against the Chiefs week 1, but he's been kind of absent the last 3 weeks. Just ask one of my friends who has him on fantasy.
Honestly, like all of these, Greg Dulcich isn't doing anything. So I'm fine with any of these picks because they all, I think, have more upside, and the position wouldn't get worse.
Yeah. So I think for me, if I was Sean Payton, probably tight end. I would say wide receiver, but wide receiver core was I mean, a lot of people don't see Courtland Sutton as a number 1. So if you want to go give him some friendly competition and go get a number 1 wide receiver somewhere, then hey, go for it. But to me, I think that adding a guy like Kyle Pitts and helping him grow and evolve with Bo Nix is something that I definitely look forward to, or would look forward to if that were to happen. But the way that the Falcons are, they want to try to keep all the weapons around Kirk Cousins because they're paying him a crap ton of money to do so. And so far, it doesn't really look like the Falcons are getting what they paid for currently. So they're a work in progress as well with Cousins. But I got to tell you, Lindsay, if I think it'd be a damn shame if PS2, going back to the subject of today's show, if PS2 if he continues to play at the level that he's currently playing from here all the way to the end of the season, and he doesn't get picked for Defensive Player of the Year, I think it'd be a damn shame. And I'm not just saying that because he's a Bronco.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is his stats aren't sexy, right? Like, and it's simply because people don't throw to him. So no, he's not getting interceptions. No, he's not returning, for pick sixes. He's not doing all of these stat padding things. So that would be my only concern, because everything you said is right. But I think when it comes to Defensive Player of the Year, they wanted TJ Watt, who they can say got X amount of sacks and blah, 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 blah. It's exciting. Pat Surtain is by no means an exciting player. He's phenomenal. And I think that's why the Broncos or Denver's media keeps like shoving the statistics about what number one receivers are getting when they go up against him, because of everything I'm saying, right? Like if you can't show the sexy stats, well, make sure people understand why, and what's going on, what's really going on that isn't on the stat paper. So that would be my one hesitation with saying like he's a runaway favorite for it. Because I think unless you're watching Broncos games, you don't know about that because there's no stats to show for it.
Right. Well, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. But it's kind of like the whole Revis Island type of thing, like it was where quarterbacks were afraid to throw to him, and just for the simple Revis, and even Revis was challenged by some of those quarterbacks, and Revis made them pay. So I'd like to think that the committee or who's ever in charge of picking these players at the end of the year in terms of defensive and offensive and all that good stuff, that they take into consideration that Patrick Surtain is that dude, and he's just that dangerous where quarterbacks just don't throw that way, and not just because of the fact that he takes their number one option away. It's just for the fact that he's dangerous enough to do that,
Right.
So
right. But Revis had that like publicity, right? Like Revis Island was a thing. Pat Surtain doesn't have a thing, and I think even though that shouldn't matter, it just in the day and age of social media and what ESPN is and what all of these like talk radio, like all of that, right? Like you need to have a thing so that people truly understand what you're doing. And I don't think Pat Surtain has one, so we got to get him one.
Yeah, definitely. Well, since we have you on the show, Lindsay, there's always there's a question that came to my mind earlier today, as we were getting ready for this interview. When you go to the games at SoFi, when the Broncos come to town every year, how is the environment there? Obviously there are more Broncos fans than there are Chargers fans, but like, would you say it's almost like the same ambiance as a home game in Denver, or is it somewhat close?
No, because Denver games, it's like 70% Broncos fans. So there's still like an element, and there, obviously, like for example, when you're there. So I think it was last year, the Broncos, I think, got an interception, but it was on I always sit in the end zone, and it was on the other side of the field. I didn't even know it happened because at SoFi, they're not announcing like Chargers threw an interception. Like they're not doing that. So I had to go on Twitter to see what happened. So there isn't that element of hype because, if the Broncos keep doing good things, there's no hype around it. So it's obviously different, but it is cool because like odds are you will be sitting next to a Broncos fan, which is always way more fun.
Yeah, I mean the only reason I ask is because I had a passenger last week ask me that because I told him I'm going to the Broncos game at the end of the month when they come to Denver, and like, oh well, the Broncos were here in Chicago last year, and I'm like, yeah, I know, I was there, and I'm pretty sure I talked about it on the show where it was like as you're walking towards the stadium here in Chicago, the Broncos and the Bears have almost the exact same colors. So if you're walking from behind, it looks like everybody's wearing the same team jersey until they turn around and you either see the number or the name and you're like, oh crap, no, you're part of the other team, boo. So it's crazy. But the amount of Broncos fans that were at Soldier Field that day was pretty crazy. Like, I don't want to say there were more Broncos than Bears fans. There was probably more Bears fans, obviously, but the amount of people that I could see, even though I was up in the nosebleeds, was just kind of crazy. And you could hear the roar whenever the Broncos scored. You know, obviously in that game against Justin Fields, the Broncos were down, what was it, 28-3, if I'm not mistaken, or 28-0, something like that. And they came back in the second half, scoring touchdowns and intercepting Justin Fields at the end to win the game after Willette's 3-point game. And I was just talking so much smack to everybody that was around me, talking smack to be at halftime, you know, telling me to go back to Denver, and just like all this drunk Bears talk. But I just wanted to know if it was the same feeling everywhere you go, because the one thing that I love about going to Denver, and unfortunately I didn't get to do it last year, was just feeling it. You know, I was at Allegiant Stadium earlier this year in Vegas for the last Week 18 game. And I thought I was going to be the only Broncos fan there, but no, like the amount of, it was like all Broncos fans on the left and all Raiders fans on the right. And we're just walking like, you know, in segregated colors, and we're just talking, yelling smack to each other as we're walking into the stadium. And it was really cool. Unfortunately, I was surrounded by Raiders fans. There were a couple of Broncos fans on the other, just a couple seats down. I wish I could have sat with them, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But the one thing that I love about going to Denver is it kind of reinvigorates your soul as a Broncos fan, you know, because you're surrounded by the orange and blue. And yes, you do see, you know, people from the other team, obviously, because they're people from favorite teams live all over the world.
Yeah.
But it just, like you said, the feeling of just going there and feeling the energy in the stadium, and when the Raptors shake because people are stomping their feet, and just like, it feels great. And it always makes me feel just so excited and just ready when I feel great.
Yeah.
You know, so Shy coming in here as we're getting ready to wrap things up here. He says, do you think we could sweep the Kansas City Chiefs, Lindsay?
Do I think it's possible? Yes. Would I put my life on the line for it? Absolutely not.
Well, yeah, I know when I talked about it being a hot take, that's exactly what it is. It's a hot take. The Chiefs are definitely going to have a bone to pick with Denver after that embarrassing loss on their behalf last year. But in all honesty, Patrick Mahomes shouldn't have even played in that game. And I'll say it.
You always downplay our wins. Stop.
I'm not downplaying
you're
our.
doing it with the Raiders, and now you're doing it with the win against.
No. I'm not downplaying the win. I'm saying that everybody was like, "Oh, you only beat Patrick Mahomes because he was sick. He shouldn't have went out there." That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not downplaying it. Like, no, I love it. I was going crazy and bananas. We finally beat the Chiefs. So if you can't go around saying, like, you know, Patrick Mahomes didn't play great because he was sick. Okay, then shouldn't have played. Should have stayed home. You know, it would have still been a loss whether he was there or not. But unfortunately, he's more than likely going to play this game. I think the first game is in Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken, or it's at home. I don't remember. But either way, if they can split with the Chiefs, I think that would be just as good. I think that the Chiefs are going to go into that first game just as they always do. They always look their nose down at their division rivals. I'm pretty sure they did that against the Chargers this last week. They just think that they're better than them. But to be honest with you, Lindsay, if they're going to go into further on and they're not going to make any moves in terms of trading for better players, then they're really going to have to they're really going to be leaning on their defense a lot to keep them in the game. Patrick Mahomes has not looked anything like the Patrick Mahomes of old. I mean, hell, his first pass against the Chargers was an interception. So, yeah, you love to see it too. Like, it's just wishful thinking at this point, Shy. I'm not saying that they can't sweep them. I'm just saying that the Broncos will is like a really, really hot take, as Lindsay mentioned earlier. But hey, I'll be the first to I can't say I'm going to do a backflip, but I'll do an imaginary backflip in my head if it does happen. But Lindsay, as we get ready to head on out of here, what are your points of it? What do you think the Broncos need to do to win this upcoming game against the Raiders?
Score. I think Denver's defense is creating turnovers. And every time that we're not converting to at least a field goal, right? I think with this defense, the games are always going to be close. I know I said earlier, I don't think this game's going to be close, and I stand by that. But just in general, We got to be converting points. So I think it's like you're not going to be able to win very many games, 9-10. So score. Take advantage of those turnovers. Don't miss out on opportunities. Every point's going to matter when you're playing a mainly defensive game. So score.
And a follow-up question to that, Lindsay, is Antonio was it Pierce, the head coach for the Raiders. What are your thoughts on him? Do you think that he's slowly starting to lose the locker room with the whole drama going on with Davante Adams?
I mean, I think he's lost Davante Adams for sure. I think liking anything about your players leaving is a horrible, immature look that you should never do. That to me was like glaring red flag. I don't necessarily know if he's lost the locker room. I mean, they're 2-2. Davante Adams to me though just has that Aaron Rodgers effect where it's like there's always drama surrounding you. There's always problems when it comes to you. How many times are we going to go through this? Obviously, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. For all we know, Davante Adams they could be horrible to him, and maybe he's justified by all of this. But it just seems like there's always drama surrounding him. I do like, and I know we hate the Raiders, but I do like Antonio Pierce, and I'm not I don't want it. I want the Raiders to fail, but I don't necessarily want him to fail. I think though he's on. If they keep losing, I think they are on the verge of. I could see him losing the locker room, but it just, I think I think people are looking for a story.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, you have to remember that the Raiders midseason last year was a midseason when they fired their former head coach who was just completely terrible.
Yeah.
And they brought him on. So he kind of felt like a Cinderella type story. So for me in that regard, Lindsay, I would say that even if the Raiders don't do good, unless they completely lose every single game from here on to the end of the season, and they go 2-15, then I can see him possibly not being a Raider anymore. But I will say that I do agree with you on the whole liking your player leaving or whatever. That's not good for team morale, definitely, and that's not the message you want to send as the head coach. And as we've seen here in Denver, it is not hard to lose a locker room. We saw with Nathaniel Hackett, the whole incident with Russell Wilson and the lineman getting into it right in front of Nathaniel Hackett's face, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. So it's just kind of crazy how things can just, like, as a head coach, you have to try to keep that boat afloat because it can easily capsize, and then before you know it, you'll be out of a job. And then Johnny has another question here for you. He says, "Hey Lindsay, are you and Shelby ready to bring the Crush podcast to Orange and Blue Network yet? LOL, just kidding."
I mean, we haven't recorded in a while, so I don't. It's not on it. It's not even. It's been it's just hard. Anyone who podcasts knows when you have full-time jobs and you're on different time zones. Hopefully we'll start recording soon, and maybe I'll have an answer for you then.
Yeah, like I was telling Lindsay before the show, Johnny, this whole thing was thanks to you. You made this the intro, the outro, everything around us. You guys see, you guys have heard me say it a million times. Johnny does it. He's always open. He's always asking me about any ideas, and whatever I do spit at him. He's been really cool in trying to make it happen. The transition, the sound effects, all the stuff you guys see here on the Orange and Blue Network, it's thanks to him and Isaiah. So, shout out to them. They put in a lot of hard work in making sure that you guys in the audience are entertained. And if you guys haven't, please make sure you go follow the Crush podcast with Lindsay and Shelby. They have a lot of great content, and it's a great time for you guys to catch up until they get recording again. But it is not easy, guys, as Lindsay said, when you have a full-time job. But we like to think that we're here to talk about not just about Denver Broncos football, which is the passion that we all love and share, but just to kind of let our feelings be known about how we feel about certain teams, matchups, players, whatever's going on in Broncos country, because as you guys know on social media, there's a lot of positive influences in Broncos country, and then there's a lot of negative. So we try to stay on the positive more than the negative here on the Orange and Blue Network. But guys, that's going to do it for today's show. I'd really like to thank my guest, Lindsay Beeble. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been a pleasure having you here.
It's
And
always an honor.
thank you so much. You know, you are always welcome here to join us anytime you like.
You're so
sweet. Guys, for those of you in the audience, thank you so much for joining us. I do apologize if we didn't get to any and all of your questions. We really did try. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. For all of our audio listeners, please make sure you like and subscribe anywhere you guys are listening to this, regardless of what site it is. 5-star reviews are always grateful. Please snap a pic, share it with us on social media. You can follow me at a 6'10" Mexican. I'm always down and happy to talk about all things football. For any business inquiries, you can email at broncostalk2020@gmail.com. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Orange and Blue Network here. You can see it. Please subscribe, share, comment, and like. Let us know that you guys are here, what you love, what you don't love. Make sure you tell Johnny, because Johnny's the one that deals with the complaint department.
I didn't know there was a complaint department.
I don't think we have one, but let Johnny know, because he deals with all that. But no, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and comment. Like, we have a lot of great shows and a lot of great content heading your way. Make sure you guys also subscribe to the MHRT network. Like, subscribe, share, and comment, and like. They have a lot of great programming as well. They have programming just like Orange and Blue does during the week. They have the Neighborhood, which is the pregame show here, also on the Orange and Blue Network, and then the postgame Buck Your Feelings show after the game, where we talk about the results of that week's game. And they have the Neighborhood on MHRT, where you can watch game play-by-play with MHRT or Orange and Black. Orange and Blue Network. I'm sorry, I started watching the show again because I forgot how it ended, so I'm starting it from scratch. I'm sorry. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been Broncos Talk on the Orange and Blue and MHRT networks. For Lindsay Beeble, my name is Adan Diaz. Have a great night, ladies and gentlemen, and as always, go Broncos. Woo!
Bye.